Prepared to proceed? Is our live stream up and running?
Yes, we're ready.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the October 18th meeting of the City of West Sacramento City Council Redevelopment Successor Agency and Finance Authority. I'll begin this evening by addressing that the council met in closed session to discuss items that had been listed on the closed session agenda. No action items were taken. We're going to begin tonight's meeting with land acknowledgement. We'd like to acknowledge that the land in which we live, work, learn, and commune is the original homelands of the indigenous people of West Sacramento who have stewarded this land throughout the generations. We acknowledge and we thank the original inhabitants who have occupied, maintained, and secured this place, and who still exist on this land. We respect and celebrate the many diverse indigenous people still connected to this land on which we gather. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to have Michelle Townsend lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Ms. Townsend. I would like to note that the council received an errata memorandum regarding item 2, which is a presentation of the 2023 Helen Putman Award for Excellence in City Business Relations for the West Sacramento Home Run Paint Internship Program. We're pulling it from tonight's agenda to put it on the November 1st agenda so that way we can coordinate with the League of California Cities and make sure that our partners are available to enjoy the presentation. So with that, brings us to our presentations, which are item 2, the presentation of the item 3, presentation of the proclamation recognizing October 2023 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Councilmember Vernal Sulpicio Hull.
Do we have
Vice
public
Mayor
comment
Rocco?
first?
Did you want to do the public comment period?
Yes, thank you so much. Before we continue, I would like to ask, Madam Clerk, is there any matters open for public comment?
Yes, we do have requests to speak.
Thank you. Who are the requests to speak?
Our first request is from Guy Stevenson.
Thank you. Mr. Stevenson.
Good evening. How are you?
Good evening.
As you know, I've been pushing this issue with VIA. Okay, you see this brace on my arm, right? That's from VIA. I was injured about a week and a half ago in their van. I'm not saying that VIA is a bad service. I'm not saying that the company, because I've talked to corporate people in New York over this company, all right? And I told them, it has nothing to do with their vans. It has to do with their people not being safe. This could have been avoided. I have a fractured wrist. You can see the paperwork. Because they went to an intersection, slammed on their brakes, and guess where I went? Right to the front of the van. I'm not saying discontinue the VIA. I'm not saying take it out of service. I'm not saying that at all. But you people don't know their hiring procedure. You don't know how they hire people. They do it over the app. They get paid on an app. You know what I mean? And so they don't have person to person like me and you. So they don't know who they're hiring. And when you get people going down West Capitol here at 55 miles an hour and slam on their brakes, guess what happens? We're not packages, we're people. And people need to realize that when they take VIA. VIA is a good program if it's run right and their safety and they have protocols. They don't. And if you talk to any of these drivers, they'll tell you. They talk to people in South America. They talk to people in the Philippines, and they tell them. And the only time it ever goes to New York is when there's an issue. And yeah, I have talked to those people. I've talked to these people and I know the company name, and I'm very aware of who they are. It's River North Transit LLC and Voyager Global Mobility. And believe me, I've had conversations, many of them, since this little accident. And I said, you know, I'm not going to sue the city. I'm not going to do any of that. All I want is the safety of people in their vans, and nobody gets hurt. Because you'll get somebody who'll get hurt in one of those vans. Guess who they're going to sue? The city. Because you have West Sacramento plowed all over the side of those vans. I'm just saying, please, when your next meeting you have with VIA, talk about safety, because we're not packages, we're people. All right? And then you don't have to spend 12 hours at the ER like I did over my arm getting x-rayed. And if people want to read my medical reports, they're more than happy. You know, or they want to read the CHP report, they can do that too. Thank you very much and have a good night.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. Before we continue with additional speakers, if any, I would like to note that on the agenda, we're prohibited by state law from discussing or taking up any action on items that are brought up under item 1. But this allows us an opportunity to speak in public forum. We ask that anyone wishing to address the council on this or any other item this evening to please fill out a request to speak card, like Mr. Stevenson did, and return it to the clerk, who's seated to my right. In front of the clerk, there's a timer to ensure that everyone has a chance to be heard. We ask that all comments be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Also in front of the clerk is an analog flip chart which states which agenda item the council is currently considering. We accept the request to speak cards up to the conclusion of the reading of the staff report on any particular agenda item. Once the staff report has been read, the council questions and public testimony, and once they've begun, we do not accept any further speaking request on that particular agenda item. If you're addressing a specific agenda item, please turn in your cards as soon as possible, but definitely before the conclusion of the staff report on that particular agenda item. We also recognize that for some, speaking in public can cause anxiety. So we request that there be no applause or boos or catcalls or demonstrations. Further, so that we can maintain a civil discourse here in the chambers, we ask that those in attendance and those who address the City Council abide by the code of conduct posted on the request to speak cards, please, and on the podium, and do not speak in loud, threatening, or offensive, or abusive, or disrespectful language that disrupts, disturbs, or otherwise impedes an orderly conduct of the meeting. So with that, Madam Clerk, do we have additional requests to speak?
Yes, ma'am. Our next speaker is Hussein.
Right. Thank you for joining us, Hussein.
Hello, good evening, council members. Sorry if I look down, I'm just gonna be looking down at my notes. I have several people to thank. I'm a coach with West Sacramento Soccer Club. I've been coaching since 2016. Recently we had a kickathon event that you all supported. I just wanted to come on, thank you. We were able to raise about $11,000. It was on August 26th. We had help from Michelle Tansen with the News Ledger, who highlighted the event with the newspaper. Aaron Rivas, Chris Foshog, and Jason Papula helped secure the fields from Parks and Recs. And we had a lot of sponsors. Council member Karina and Verna Hull both attended the events. We really appreciate you guys coming out of your busy schedules. There were a lot of sponsors. West Sac PD sponsored our t-shirts. Jack Rabbit Brewing sponsored Dick's Sporting Goods, Kona Ice, Sac Republic, Taquera Jalisca, Marcos Pizza. It was a really great event, and we really appreciated the community's help and the city's help. I also wanted to just briefly touch on the Bright Park Master Plan. We're excited about discussions of the development. I had thought we might have the community meetings starting in September, but I guess the Parks and Recs is still speaking with the developer, but we're really looking forward to talking with other stakeholders about that project. We did send over a document with some notes to Parks and Recs about what our needs and our most important needs are, mostly safe fields, more fields, and lighted fields for kids in West Sac, but also highlighting the fact that this is a really good opportunity because it's such a big project, to take it into context of the larger parks plan in West Sac, because obviously you don't want to have one development and not really consider what your space is, what your environment is. I'm not a city planner. I'm sure they're well aware of that, but in assessing what are the spaces that we have in West Sac, are there other opportunities that we could use and leverage? Are there collaborations and organizations that we could use, and could we design spaces to serve multiple needs efficiently? So we had some ideas that we also included about that. I had previously highlighted other cities and sports complexes, not to say that, we can't have one or we should have one like that. Different cities manage soccer and different sports differently. Some have complexes, some have distributed parks like Folsom, like Elk Grove, like Natomas. And so necessarily having one sports complex might not be the solution for West Sac, but I think taking those kinds of things into consideration and looking for solutions to problems and fostering more collaboration between different sports groups is the way to go ahead. Besides that, just wanted to also thank Jason Papula with Parks because he helped us get a container at Summerfield recently, and they redid Summerfield and reseeded it. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, are there additional speakers?
Our next speaker is Robin Davis.
Hello, I'm Robin, and I live in my 160 square foot semi-off-grid tiny home on wheels on my undeveloped residential property here in West Sacramento. Last council meeting, there was discussion regarding a luxury development and a low-income housing development geared towards single-parent graduate students. Both serve their purpose, and we need both of these options to sustain our infrastructure and revenue and to uplift those trying to better their circumstances. But again, we need more options in between. Our revenue-generating projects and our government-subsidized projects. The focus on these two extreme ends of the spectrum is contributing to the growing missing middle-income housing. Where do we go when we do not meet the wealth standards of the luxury being built? Where do we go when we do not meet the low-income requirements? Where do we go when we don't qualify for a mortgage at 8% interest? Where do we go when the average cost to rent in West Sacramento is $1,898, which can be more than 60% of one's monthly income? Our options are too narrow. We also know we have a high demand to build affordable housing, and the cost of labor to build is increasing. Approximately half of the construction industry is over the age of 46. That means that half of the industry is set to retire and leave in the next 20 years. When 50 people retire, only 7 people replace them. That means the supply for talent is only going to be at 57% capacity compared to what it is today. Northern California Construction Trading is located here in West Sacramento, and it provides free construction training, so I urge people to check it out and encourage our youth to enroll because our society depends on it. You can potentially make double or triple the amount of income in the construction or trades industries compared to coming out of college, usually with a large amount of debt. Giving the freedom of options to build more diverse housing and educating our communities how to build again will prevent further future dependence on our government and the wealthy to build for us. Lastly, I ask you to please view the written public comment by Andrea Montano and see the attached document from HCD. The document states, ADU law allows a local government to adopt less restrictive requirements for the creation of an ADU, such as amending zoning to allow recreational vehicles or park trailers. The department encourages local governments to facilitate a variety of housing types and structures to address California's diverse housing needs. Please note this letter was dated September 19th, 2017. So we have had the state's blessing for quite some time. We just need to start allowing these options. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Madam Clerk?
Our last speaker is Rhonda Pope Flores.
Thank you. Ms. Pope Flores?
I want to thank you for reminding the audience about not being able to speak on matters not properly agendized on the agenda. And if you had done that back in last October, I wouldn't be coming here every single city council meeting complaining about the illegal renaming of Tower Bridge Gateway. I also find it quite ironic that you do a land blessing for the indigenous people of this area. I was born and raised in this area, and I have had no regard complete disrespect. And as a tribal leader, I'm absolutely disgusted with this city. You have completely ignored the petition that's going, the numerous people that have provided input that they are opposed to this street renaming. You have been given multiple letters by individuals. You should know that Broderick and Bright Neighborhood Association is collaborating with residents, and to my knowledge, there have been 5 requests for a grand jury investigation on your improper street renaming for the benefit of your past mayor and the benefit of his current election that he's running for. Shame, shame, shame. You have been, you hear me at every city council meeting talk about this, and if I'm not going to go away, I will take this to anyone who needs to hear it, and I will tell you, people are listening. And people are wondering why the city of West Sacramento is just continuously ignoring its residents on this issue. And the fact that you violated the Brown Act, I don't care what his letter says, you violated the Brown Act, you ignored your constituents. Right as of now, I have been engaging with my tribe, Buena Vista Rancheria of Miwok Indians, Wilton Rancheria of Miwok Indians, Shingle Springs Rancheria of Miwok Indians, and they all have an interest in this matter. Additionally, California Tribal Historic Preservation Office organization has been inquiring about this matter as well. You may think that this is just a simple street renaming, and you can do it because your rules give you the authority to do it and ignore tribal governments. In your own general plan, you state that you will work with tribal governments. You do a land acknowledgement at every meeting, and you had the nerve last, I don't even remember what it was, to pose with me on a recognition of tribes. It means nothing.
Thank you, Ms. Pope Flores. We're going to now move on to item number 3, which was a previously recognized as consideration of approval for a proclamation recognizing October 2023 as Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. Councilmember Vernal Sulpicio Hall, would you do us the honors in opening up this presentation?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. May I please invite Elizabeth Esquivel and Deanna Castaneda to the podium? So this is an emotional topic, but I really do think it's important. So when I first became pregnant with my first child, I quickly learned I was not supposed to talk about being pregnant until it was safe. Just in case I had a miscarriage, I wouldn't want to burden anyone and tell them that I lost my pregnancy. Society has conditioned families, especially women, to suffer in silence, and we're told not to talk about pregnancy loss as to not make others feel uncomfortable. But when we do that, we ultimately hurt members of our community who are grieving and are deserving of acknowledgement and support. October recognizes the loss and pain so many parents experience who have lost a child due to miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, stillbirths, birth defects, SIDS, and other causes. Today's resolution is about breaking the silence, raising awareness, honoring the lives of the little ones who are no longer with us, and standing beside our friends and community members to share that we see you, we're here for you, your families, and we will always remember the children you lost. This resolution is for every family in West Sacramento who has suffered the loss of a pregnancy or a baby and is still grieving and every day misses their child. This is for both of my sisters who have experienced loss. Elizabeth Esquivel, this is for you. This is for your husband, Nick, and your son, Dominic. Today we honor your daughter, Ileana Evelyn, who passed away in January 2002 at only 4 months. This is also for Deanna Castaneda and her daughters, Trinity and Ariana. Today we honor their sister, Deanna's daughter, Michaela Jade, who passed away at 8 days old. This year, Michaela would have been 16. Families are more than the children you see, and today as a community, we've taken another step in breaking the silence of pregnancy and infant loss to ensure that every bereaved family is acknowledged, supported, and the little ones they've lost are honored and never forgotten. And on the subject of support, this is also an ask to our business community. Update your employment policies to better support families struggling with loss. I'm proud to share that the City of West Sacramento has expanded our language in our paid leave policy and bereavement leave to cover employees as well as their partners, regardless of gender, who go through miscarriage or failed surrogacy, adoption, or fertility treatment. We can all work together to support our families more. I'd like to thank my council colleagues tonight for supporting this important and deeply meaningful resolution. I'd just like to read a couple small sections of the proclamation. Whereas in 1988, President Reagan designated October as National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And since 2016, 50 states has proclamations honoring October 15th as the National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Day. Whereas 1 in 4 women will suffer the loss during pregnancy, at birth, or in infancy. Pregnancy and infant loss, which includes miscarriage, stillbirth, sudden infant death syndrome, ectopic pregnancy, termination for medical reasons, and the death of a newborn, have historically not been given proper acknowledgement and the value they truly deserve. Whereas Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month in October and Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day on October 15th calls attention to how, as individuals and a community, we can meet the needs of bereaved mothers, fathers, and family members, and to recognize the grief and honor the courage of families who have lost a child. I'd like to give the opportunity if any of my colleagues have any comments, and then the families are comfortable with the picture tonight, with pictures of their daughters with them.
Well, I'd like to turn it over to our recipients tonight first before we have a chance. If you'd like to say any words, not necessary, but I want to invite you to the microphone if you'd like to. Okay. Well, Ms. Escobar? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'd like to share a few words. This is not an honor that I want to accept, but I am here, and I'm here because of the strength of my daughter and to honor and recognize all the other families that have experienced child loss, not just within our city, but within our county and our state and everywhere else. I want to appreciate and thank the entire community for their outpouring love and support when we experienced our loss. I believe most of the city council, if not all, had a chance to meet my daughter, who was only 4 months old, but she was already out in the community doing community service. We were able to raise almost $50,000 to provide a memorial scholarship. And so since then, we've been able to hand out a handful of scholarships, mainly for students here in West Sacramento. And this year we had the chance to do that here for River City High School students. So just want to thank you all and allowing us. I want to thank you all for the outpouring love and support from the entire community and for the contributions for her memorial scholarship to continue her legacy and for allowing that to continue moving forward and helping serve other students in their pursuit for college education. Thank you.
Are there any other council members that would like to make any comment?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem,
Yes.
we do have a request to speak on this item from the public.
Thank you. Please, Madam Clerk, if you'd like to call out the speaker.
Michelle Townsend.
Thank you.
To have my shirt on today. My first son died. This is Joey. This is Joey. When he was 7 months old, to SIDS. So it's a big thing for me. We've also had breast cancer in our family, which is why it says save the boobies and the babies. And so I just want to tell you guys, if I can do anything for you. I'm still crying. It's been 30 years. My son died in 1989, which is not helping, I realize, but you never stop missing them. And so I did do an article about this, but they chose not to publish it. So you guys get them. So if I can do anything to help, and you guys too, you know that, just please let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend. Before we go down to take a photograph, with your permission, of course, I want to thank you for so bravely coming to this council meeting to accept the proclamation. I know Mayor Guerrero would like to also be here, but she is away tonight. But on her behalf, we just really want to extend the greatest honors to the warriors who have survived such an incredible loss. I did have an opportunity to meet Eliana and hold her. I did not have the opportunity to meet Michaela Jade, but I just want to extend our our love and support to all of you, but everyone in our community who has suffered that loss in private. And I also want to commend my colleague, Councilmember Sulpicio Hall, for your very vulnerable comments tonight. I think that's very brave and courageous, and one that we haven't seen, that level of vulnerability on the dais, and I appreciate that very much. So with that, I'd like to invite my council colleagues to join us down below with our guests with the proclamation. We will now move to item number 4, which is a presentation of proclamation recognizing October 22nd to October 29th as California Flood Preparedness Week. And do we have a recipient for tonight's proclamation? Yes, please. Come on. It's great to see you. Do you want to introduce yourself? And please tell us about Flood Preparedness Week.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. My name is Paul Dirksen. I'm the Flood Protection Planner here for the City of West Sacramento, a member of West Safeca. We're here this evening to recognize Flood Preparedness Week, which is next week. We're coming up to our next flood season. I want to remind everybody that last year was a phenomenal rain year. The number of atmospheric rivers hit the region. We have forecasts now that we have potentially another El Nino year, which could also be another wet year. We're not sure if that's going to affect us directly or the region, but I want you to know that it's important for all of the council, the residents, and property owners to know that we're hard at work to improve the city's levees. We recently completed a levee over on the bypass, the east bypass levee. There's another project that will go into construction early next year. And then we're also furthering some of the protection along the Sacramento River through our design and with our partners, the Department of Water Resources and the United States Army Corps of Engineers. We appreciate the recognition this evening and always grateful for the support of the council and the residents and property owners when it comes to the flood program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dirksen. Before you sit down, I wanted to ask my colleagues on the council if they had any comment.
Go ahead, Bernice. Go first.
Councilmember Sulpicio Hall.
Thank you. I am a member of Wasafeca, and flood protection has been #1 priority of the city for the last 20 years, and I just want to thank staff. The work you do every day to create safety of our little island of West Sacramento, and I get to see it monthly when we meet. So, Paul, thank you so much for your work. and just appreciate everything you do to keep West Sacramento safe.
Thank you.
And Mayor Pro Tem,
Councilmember Alcala.
thank you. I also want to thank you and Greg and all the staff, keeping our levies in order and getting the information out to the public and providing those sandbags. I used about 18 of them last year because water was coming into my house. And it's just so important with the information that you put out there for the public to know. So thank you again. And can I ask you, what kind of advisories are we going to be putting out this year?
Little early to tell, but you know, as we start to watch the river levels rise, and as we see more storm fronts coming in, we'll be on hand, and as the river levels rise, then patrols will take place as necessary. So, but there is a lot of great improvements that have happened in the region over time, whether it has to do with the Folsom Dam, the expansion of the Sacramento Weir just north of the city, as well as our own Southport project in the south of the city. All those things have really led to a greater flood protection for West Sacramento residents and region.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dirksen, for coming before us and explaining the importance of flood protection. I know in previous years we've had presentations during this week at local schools where we've taught the children the importance of having strong flood protection. And arguably, it's not the most sexy topic for all to talk about, but that it's probably the most important when we talk about public safety, because our city is surrounded by miles of levee. And if we didn't fortify those barriers between us and the sea or our waterways, that would essentially put everyone in danger. We wouldn't have a city above ground if those waters were to get in. And so while it's a somewhat dormant topic, it's one that's very, very important for us. So I really appreciate the opportunity to recognize this week, and I'm going to ask my colleagues to join us down with Mr. Dirksen for a photograph. And now we are going to move to our consent agenda, which appears to be items 5 through 9. Are there any items for the council that they wish to pull? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, are there any speakers for any of the items 5 through 9?
We have no request to speak on those items.
Thank you. At this juncture, I'd entertain a motion.
Early moves? Second.
There is what do you call it, a movement?
Motion.
There is a motion.
Motion?
There's a movement by Councilmember Early. A motion by Councilmember Early and a second by Councilmember Alcala. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orozco?
Aye. Thank you. Item passes, or the consent passes. With that, we are going to move to the regular agenda item number 10, and that is consideration of the City of West Sacramento joining the YOLO Animal Services Planning Agency Joint Powers Agreement and appointment to the JPA. Hi, Megan. Thank you. The floor is yours. Your microphone, let's just check to make sure the microphone's on. Want everybody to hear what you have to say.
Sorry, this is
There
my
we
first
are.
time not during COVID giving a presentation. So good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Tonight before you, we have an opportunity to formally join the YOLO Animal Services Joint Powers Authority as a voting member, and also to appoint a member of the council to represent West Sacramento. At the JPA's inception in 2020, the city originally decided not to join as a voting member due to uncertainty around the direction of the JPA and what financial implications those decisions might have on the city. At the time, the city decided to participate at the staff level and has been regularly attending meetings as a non-voting member. Staff also participates in a monthly staff working group which discusses contract terms, budget expenditures, and shelter status updates. At the August JPA meeting, Yolo County staff were directed to send a letter to the City of West Sacramento formally asking for the city to join the JPA as a voting member. This letter was received by the mayor and the city manager in September. The current JPA model allows for on-ramps and off-ramps, affording jurisdictions the opportunity to join or leave the JPA. Given that the JPA has been formally deemed a planning JPA and there do not appear to be any imminent financial implications to the city, staff feels comfortable making the recommendation for the city to approve joining the JPA and appoint a council representative. So I'm available for any questions that you might have regarding this item.
Thank you. Before I turn it over to council for any discussion, Madam Clerk, are there been any requests to speak on this item?
We have one request to speak, Mr. Bob Schabert.
Thank you. Mr. Shaver?
Madam Mayor, council members, I'm glad to see this before our city council tonight. I'm on the board of directors of Unleashing the Possibilities. We're the 501c3 that's been working with the JPA. This is an extremely important move that our city is making. And like has been pointed out, there is no financial obligation. Every city that has been part of this has its own unique needs, as we do. One of the things we don't want to do is end up like the French Street Shelter. They do a fantastic job, but they can only respond to 75% of their calls. We don't have that issue over here because we're working with this county of Yolo. Having our voice, I think, is very, very important. Again, every city's got its own unique needs. Ours need to be heard, and it keeps the cost factor down and keeps costs under control. Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Are there any questions or comments from the council?
I have one. Assistant City Manager, have we heard from any of our colleagues of interest in participating in this or representing us?
Yes, so we have had some communications with the mayor, and she is open to be appointed by the council tonight to serve on this JPA. So if you're open to that, then that would be an option.
I'm prepared to move forward, but before we do so, I just wanted to survey fellow council members to ensure that no one else is being overlooked when it comes to no other. Okay. Madam,
Do we need to appoint an alternate?
Great question.
I don't believe so at this time, no.
Okay. You can appoint one, but you don't need to.
Well, we can go ahead and move with the appointment, at least, since that's before us tonight. Do we take any nominations?
So I would nominate our mayor, Martha Guerrero, to represent us on this JPA.
That's a motion by Councilmember Early, a second by Councilmember Alcala. I assume that it comes to a vote. Is that fair to say? Okay. Moving forward with the vote, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Sulpicio Hull.
Aye.
Councilmember Early.
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orozco.
Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you, Megan. Fantastic. We're going to move on to our general administrative function, which is council communications and assignments.
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Nope.
I don't have anything to report.
Okay. You can do study missions. You can just.
I know our mayor, myself, and Mayor Pro Tem Orozco had the opportunity to go on study mission, actually to Toronto, I think maybe a month ago in September 13th, 14th, and 15th. And for us, it was they keep you very, very busy, and it is a intense learning experience. This time around, we had the opportunity to tour marketplaces and farmers markets that aren't only open on the weekends, but are open year-round, the entire week. And then also had an opportunity to look at their waterfront and the potential for our port area as well. And so I had thoughts of our own pheasant club and the potential for micro businesses and really being able to, what they shared as activating spaces. They had a lot of really old historical buildings that rather than just knocking down and building something new, that they repurposed and added on to in order to truly create something that was wonderful and also like centered within the community. So I was constantly like getting business cards and like, oh, how do you do that? And how do you do this? This is something we could probably try in West Sacramento because, again, we're small, nimble, but we love to innovate. And so it was a really wonderful experience and extremely educational. When I came back, I was throwing all kinds of ideas at Aaron, our city manager, for the potential of what something like our Pheasant Club, but also our Bridge District could be.
Thank you, Councilmember Early. I agree. Councilmember Early and I had the opportunity to sit through several presentations that gave us some really good ideas. So stay tuned for some upcoming events. I'm sure if there's future announcements, you will hear about other from us to really highlight what we're going to be presenting as a result of the study mission. And this is our second in 2 years, and they all have some fantastic ideas. I did want to highlight that there was a reference in the Sacramento Bee this morning regarding some of our riverfront development, and we did get a chance to take a tour of the riverfront over in Toronto, which was incredible. It's ripe for a ton of ideas. Of course, Toronto has a different budget than our city, but on the other hand, if we can continue to do public-private partnerships, there are a lot of things that we can consider. And as far as council communications, I will say that the Sacramento Regional County Sanitation District and Sacramento Area Sewer District met on October 11, 2023, and we actually met at a different place rather than the County Board of Supervisors building. We met at 10,060 Gady Road to actually be on the premises to receive our presentations and get more of a broad understanding of how regional SAN works. And we had a presentation on proposed residential commercial rate increases and Prop 218 process. I'll talk about that really quickly first. There is going to be rate increases that are going to be facing everyone in our region. And that's largely because, as I mentioned before, there have been everywhere, right? Everybody's been experiencing increased costs, region-wide, statewide, probably nationwide, frankly. Some that we're facing regional sanitation are the exorbitant price of chlorine, which is used to clean the effluent and the water in our region so that it can be reused for either our harvest water project or at least released back into our waterways in a safe fashion. That price of chlorine has skyrocketed. It's like almost, it's certainly doubled, but if not tripled. And there are very few suppliers. So unfortunately for us, there's not much we can do in the meantime. But we discussed these rate increases and discussed whether or not we wanted those increases to be implemented over 3, 4, or 5 years. The board ultimately agreed that the 3-year, which is staff recommendation, would be most appropriate, with the increases happening between 24 and 25, 25 and 26, and then 26 and 27, and skipping 27 to pretty much 29. The increases are roughly, they're a matter of a few dollars each month, which we know can have a detrimental impact, especially on the folks that are on fixed incomes in our community or who live in places where they can barely afford what they're living in, let alone the ability to afford additional increases alongside every other increase that we're receiving. So I really wanted, I asked a lot of questions about our sewer lifeline rate assistance program, which is available to everyone in our city if they qualify, right? If low income, they reach out to regional sanitation, get a little bit of a few dollars knocked off the bill if they qualify. But we want to make sure that that's widely spread because a lot of people aren't participating. And so we had a discussion about how they plan to do outreach and make sure that people in mobile home parks or our low income and harder to reach communities, people that really need it, especially those with language barriers, that they reach out in a culturally appropriate way in order to ensure that the folks who need it the most will get the information. And the information is also, if you're watching on video, on the regional sanitation website. Again, it's the Sewer Lifeline Assistance Program, and we also asked about expanding that, either in an increase of the monetary contribution or an expansion of the folks that have been served. We also received an annual report for fiscal year 22-23 for the Confluence Partnership, and we talked about the one district quarterly report. As I mentioned in previous meetings, regional sanitation and the Sac Sewer District are going to merge into one entity. There's a lot of moving parts to discuss because frankly, we've been using the County of Sacramento staff and under the benefits package, and these are all things that we're going to have to consider as we move into our own independent entity. And so we had a report on that in item 9, and we discussed whether or not we want to renew a task force that we previously had where where County Supervisor Villegas, Oscar Villegas, and myself previously sat. In addition to that, I just wanted to report out on behalf of our council, and I know several of us can report on this, is our annual Rock the Block program that happened this past weekend. And I must say, it was, again, a huge success for the people in our community. Not only were we able to reach homeowners, people who have the lack of the ability to do improvements to their homes, people that are either elderly or low income or unable to really navigate institutions that would allow them to get the maximum benefit if there were any programs out there for them to enjoy. And I know that Councilmember Early and Councilmember Sulpicio Hull and I visited several homeowners, but one in particular who said she'd lived in this community for 20 years and owned the home, and her children are all gone. She's raised her children and her grandchildren, and she said, this really renews my faith that there are good people out there. And so, Maria, this one's for you, because frankly, we have a whole city worth of good people, and they're all willing to roll up their sleeves and get the work done and do all the help that's needed to happen. And frankly, I'm just really proud of our city and our community members for taking the step to volunteer their time, and all the sponsors who made that possible. So we have 3 more years as we approach our 3rd year next year. We're going to need applicants, so keep that in mind. I know Councilmember Alcala has referred homeowners to the program, which is phenomenal considering that we are focusing on Bright and Broderick, and it has to be within a particular radius. So not everybody's going to enjoy just yet, but we want to make as many touches in our community. One more thing, I know in a previous council meeting we had discussed the girls' softball fields, and that was taken to heart. I know Megan's here tonight, and she will say that while we couldn't do a lot of repairs this past weekend because there was a tournament with like 600 kids for 12 hours long, and it had a really interesting name. Do you remember what it was called? It was like Shake Your Booty or something. I know it had a really cool name, but I was like, wow, really? But we couldn't do a lot of the hands-on work on the softball fields, but at least this is something we could do in the interim until we can effectively do a study on our facilities and make sure we make long-awaited improvement.
Can I say something? Thank you. Well, I want to thank everyone for going out there. I actually went out on Saturday, and it was fantastic. And I believe the person you spoke about, Maria Maldonado, she made salsa for everyone. Everyone was thrilled. And she was so happy because last year she wanted to apply, but she missed the deadline. So this year she got her dream. People were out there fixing her fence and all. Thank you, everyone, for going out there. It really does change the quality of a person's life, and it makes the whole neighborhood so much safer. we have different incomes. I live over in the Rivers. We think it's a pretty safe area, and I've told them it's really important to partner with folks outside of the Rivers that live in our community. It's the only way we can really make a safe community, by people getting to know each other. And I know a few of the volunteers that I mentioned went out there on Saturday with me, so it was great to see people, from all parts of, not just Sacramento, but all parts of actually Broderick and Bright going out there and helping their neighbors. So thank you.
Well said.
Can I say something about that?
Yes, Councilmember Early.
So I want to also make sure I thank our city staff. So I saw like so many of y'all out there both days, both Friday and Saturday. I think we had 2 teams. So we had so many people, they split us up into 2 different sites, which was just so amazing. I was so proud to be out there with you all. And this year I went out there with my daughter, and we were able to paint a mural. We started on Friday, and at the Yolo County Children's Alliance, this year they had something like 5 community areas or community center areas, and then an additional 15 homes. So 20 sites altogether this year. Last year they had 13. So we are building steam. But my daughter and I had the opportunity to paint this beautiful mural for kids and families to enjoy. And she had so much fun with the volunteers and seeing sort of like the fruits of her labor, and knowing that there were going to be kids just like her that were going to get to enjoy it. She painted a chalk wall as part of it. And so when it's dry and they roll out, they present it to the community. They said they'd invite her back so she could also hang out with them and write something, encouraging words on there as well. But it was just an amazing experience, not only for me personally, but just to see you all out there and just see the whole community. It was over 250 folks out there from all over the region. I know I met someone from Rockland who had driven out to help us both days, and then another person from Vacaville. And it's just was a beautiful experience. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Councilmember Early. Councilmember Sabuzio Hall, would you like to speak?
Rock the Block is the most fun community building project that you're like physically building things that I've ever been to. And I think when you do kickoff and you've got, I think it was like 230 volunteers from all over the region, standing there literally ready to roll up their sleeves and get to work. It's just a really powerful experience. I got to meet Maria, and she'd mentioned that you'd referred her to the program, and she was just so happy to have us there. I miss the salsa though, but I know where she lives, so I'll have to go back and get some. But yeah, I just Rock the Block's phenomenal, and like Councilmember Early said, each year the number's getting big. And so it's going to be incredible to see year 3, what that looks like and how we can expand. So just once again, so proud of West Sacramento.
As am I. I gotta say thank you to my council colleagues for their eloquent responses. Frankly, I'm a big believer, as a saying that I've had for years, which is people support what they help create. And in this case, we started in 2014 with our Disney Kaboom Park, where folks in the community came out in droves to build something for the children in our neighborhood. This is something that's even more special than just hiring a contractor to go and do home improvements. This is people helping people, which is a reminder of the beauty of the human spirit. And it brings out the best in us because we're standing with all walks of life, all political orientations, all socioeconomic backgrounds, and we are shoulder to shoulder in support of one another on a weekend when we could be doing something else with our time, right? And so I just really want to commend our city and our staff and our leaders for everything that we were able to bring to this community this past weekend. And I look forward to years 3, 4, and 5 and hoping that we can continue to expand. All right. So with that, I would like to go to council appointments. Are there any council appointments tonight? No, seeing none. Final items, council calendar.
Yes, a couple items. So this Saturday is the Firehouse Open House at Station 45 that starts at 10. And then next Thursday, the 26th, we are having a groundbreaking for a new affordable housing project called The Huddle. And that's at 221 5th Street. And that starts at 4 o'clock.
Thank you. And I will remind the audience that Amanda Berlin is our acting city manager this evening. Thank you, Ms. Berlin. And would you be receiving the city manager report as well?
No report.
Thank you. Our city attorney report?
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Any staff direction for members of the city council? Seeing none. Future agenda item requests by council? Seeing none. Ms. Berlin, is there anything that I'm missing before we conclude the meeting? Thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Early,
I'll second.
second by Councilmember Sulpicio Hall. With that, Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Sulpicio Hull?
Aye.
Councilmember Early?
Aye.
Councilmember Alcala?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Orozco?
Aye, thank you. This meeting is adjourned.